Have you ever been around someone and sensed that something was off? You couldn't explain it, but you felt it, that quiet tension in the air, that small voice inside that said, something isn't right. Evil doesn't always arrive with a snarl or a shadowed face. It often comes disguised, smiling, attentive, helpful. It studies you, mirrors you. It tells you exactly what you want to hear. And while you're busy feeling seen, it's learning how to control you. In Stoic philosophy, we're taught that the first defense of a peaceful life is discernment, knowing what belongs in your circle and what doesn't. Because the truth is, some people enter your life not to connect, but to corrupt. They drain your clarity, distort your confidence, and little by little separate you from your own truth. But here's the good news. Evil, no matter how subtle, always leaves clues. There are patterns, warning signs that reveal a person's darker intentions long before they show their true face. Today, we'll uncover 7 of those signs. Understand them, and you'll protect more than just your peace. You'll protect your soul. Now please keep in mind that sometimes these can be signs of true affection, but when they are laid on too thick, that should be your warning sign. As we go through these, I am sure that some of you will have suggestions or input, and I would love to read about them in the comments. All right, let's dive in. Sign number 1. They mirror you too perfectly. At first, it feels like fate. They like what you like. They finish your sentences. But what feels like connection might just be calculation. More often than not, these people aren't bonding with you. They're studying you. They mirror your values, your tone, even your wounds, because imitation is the fastest way to earn trust. They know the psychology. We trust what feels familiar. And the more familiar they seem, the more you'll open up. But what you don't realize is that every detail you share becomes a blueprint. They're not learning how to help you. They're learning how to use you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When someone's colors shift to match yours too quickly, that's not empathy, it's strategy. But what if they really are being genuine? How do you know when it's real and when to run? If they rush intimacy, agree with everything, or they tell you, "I've never met anyone like you," before you've even gotten to know them all that well. Those are some signs to look out. And maybe for a while, you believe them. But when a person builds connection through performance, they'll eventually drop the act, and the silence that follows will reveal what was real all along. Nothing. The Stoic response is simple. Take your time. Trust consistency, not chemistry. Authenticity isn't instant. It unfolds slowly, like truth. Because anyone who tries to become you too quickly is usually planning to break you eventually. Sign number 2. They isolate you from your support system. It often starts quietly, not with commands, but with concern. "I just don't think your friends really get you. Your family, they don't seem to appreciate you like I do." At first, you think they're being protective, but slowly, a strange pattern forms. They begin to cast subtle shadows on every person who could ground you in reality. And that's the point. A manipulator doesn't just want your attention. They want your entire perspective. Isolation is their favorite weapon because it's invisible. It doesn't feel like a wall being built. It feels like love tightening its grip. They convince you that distance from others means closeness with them. And before you know it, your world starts to shrink. One conversation, one guilt trip, one "I just miss you when you're with them" at a time. What they're really doing is removing your mirrors, the people who reflect your true self back to you. Without those reflections, your sense of reality becomes easier to rewrite. In abusive relationships, this pattern is textbook. First comes the bonding, then the divide and conquer phase. They pit you against your friends. They make you second-guess anyone who questions them. And once they succeed, they become your only source of truth, your emotional oxygen. Epictetus warned about this centuries ago. Keep company only with those who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. If someone's presence instead makes your world smaller, that is not love. That's control disguised as devotion. And here's the irony. They often accuse others of being toxic, jealous, or fake. They paint themselves as your only sanctuary, even while they dismantle your peace. The Stoic antidote: observation without denial. If your circle is shrinking, if you've stopped sharing things out of fear they'll get upset, you're already being isolated. You can't protect your peace by cutting out everyone who protects you. True love expands you. False love confines you. And a Stoic knows the difference, because they choose connection through reason, not dependency. Sign number 3. They test your boundaries, 1 inch at a time. No manipulator starts with betrayal. They start with permission, a small joke that crosses the line, a tiny favor you said you couldn't do, a harmless question that feels just a little too personal, and when you hesitate, they smile. Don't be so sensitive. That's the first test. The psychology behind it is simple: boundary erosion. If they can make you ignore your discomfort once, they can do it again. If they can make you question whether your no is justified, they can replace it with their yes. This is how control is built, not through one grand betrayal, but through 1,000 tolerated cuts, each one small enough to excuse until it isn't. Imagine your boundaries as a fortress. Every time you let one small thing slide, a stone falls from the wall. Soon, the fortress still looks intact, but anyone can walk right through the cracks. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. But your ambitions mean nothing if you let someone else redraw your limits." Boundary testing often starts playful. They'll pretend to forget what you said no to. They'll pressure you to prove your loyalty, your patience, your love. And if you resist, they'll accuse you of being distant. But when someone punishes you for holding a boundary, they're revealing their true intent. In workplaces, this looks like colleagues who exploit your kindness, always just this once. In friendships, it's the person who never respects your time or energy. And in relationships, it's the partner who chips away at your privacy, your values, your peace. The Stoic discipline of will teaches us this. You cannot stop others from testing your limits, but you can stop pretending not to see it. Every test is an opportunity to stand firm or to surrender. And every time you choose the latter, you teach them what they can take next. Don't confuse being calm with being complacent. The Stoic is tranquil, not tolerant of harm. Peace without boundaries is just submission dressed in serenity. Sign number 4, their stories never quite add up. A lie is never just words, it's architecture. Each falsehood requires maintenance, scaffolding, and constant repair. That's why liars are always tired, not because life exhausts them, but because deceit does. Evil people rarely tell outright lies at first. They twist, they omit, they shapeshift between versions of themselves, depending on who's watching. You'll start to notice small inconsistencies, the kind that make you pause. They said one thing yesterday, another today. Their timeline doesn't make sense. And when you bring it up, they turn it around. You're remembering wrong. You always twist things. Why are you so suspicious? This is not clumsiness, it's calibration. They're not afraid of being caught. They're testing how much disbelief you can swallow. If you let one inconsistency slide, they'll make it two. Soon, you stop asking questions altogether. That's when they know they've won. Seneca once said, "Truth is the foundation of virtue." And that's exactly why deception is so dangerous, not just morally, but psychologically. Every time you rationalize their lies, you erode your own alignment with truth. You start living in their narrative instead of your own. This is how manipulation metastasizes, not through domination, but through confusion, because a confused mind is the easiest to control. In romantic manipulation, lies serve as emotional fog, keeping you unsure, hesitant, compliant. In business, deceit covers exploitation. In friendships, it creates dependency. You need them to clarify what's real. But Stoicism offers the cure. Not anger, not vengeance, but clarity. When words and actions contradict, believe actions. When confusion becomes constant, step back. When someone demands trust instead of earning it, that's your proof. The Stoics never told us to assume malice in everyone. They told us to see clearly. And sometimes seeing clearly means realizing that the person smiling in front of you is living a lie they expect you to maintain. Let them. You don't need to expose every liar. You just need to stop being their audience. Sign number 5. They punish you for happiness. Sometimes the most painful betrayals don't happen when you're down. They happen when you're up. You share good news, a promotion, a breakthrough, a simple day where you feel genuinely light. And instead of joy, you meet a strange chill. Their smile flickers, their tone changes. Suddenly they're quiet, distant, irritated for reasons they can't explain. At first, you rationalize it. They're just having a bad day. But patterns don't lie. Every time you rise, they fall into shadow. This is not coincidence. It's punishment. For the manipulator, your happiness is an act of rebellion. A reminder that their influence over your emotions isn't absolute. They need you small. They need you doubting. Because a person who feels at peace is much harder to control. So they sabotage your joy in subtle ways. They start arguments right before important moments. They make sarcastic remarks about your success. They act unimpressed when you share something meaningful. And when you pull away, they accuse you of being distant or selfish. It's not random, it's conditioning. They want your nervous system to associate happiness with danger, so that next time you dim your own light before they even ask you to. This is how emotional control works. Not by force, but by fear of consequence. The consequence of shining too brightly. Epictetus warned us centuries ago. When someone is properly grounded in life, they should not have to look outside themselves for approval. That is the heart of the Stoic solution. Because when your self-worth depends on another person's comfort, you become their hostage. But when you ground your peace internally, no one can weaponize your joy. Think about it. Real love celebrates growth. Real friendship multiplies happiness. But false love competes with it. To an envious person, your peace feels like provocation. To a manipulator, your success feels like disobedience. So they'll tell you you're too ambitious, or that you're changing. And you are. You're growing in ways their ego can't follow. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." The jealous heart is always impoverished, starving for control, starving for significance. And when you stop feeding that hunger, they rage. So protect your joy the way you'd protect a flame in the wind. You don't argue with the storm, you shield the light and walk on. Not everyone who claps for you is happy for you. Some clap just to keep the rhythm of your obedience. Never apologize for being at peace. Never shrink to soothe someone else's insecurity. Because to a Stoic, happiness isn't a reward others give you. It's a virtue you build within yourself, and no one else gets to destroy it. Sign number 6. They collect your secrets as weapons. They seem so curious at first. They listen intently. They ask deep, probing questions that make you feel seen, maybe even understood for the first time in years. And because their interest feels genuine, you open up. You share the stories you've never told anyone, your fears, your regrets, your shame. They nod, they comfort you, they say all the right things, but later those same words return, sharpened. One day in an argument, you hear your own confession thrown back at you like a blade. A memory you trusted them with is suddenly distorted, twisted into evidence against you. It doesn't happen once, it becomes a pattern. They never forget your vulnerabilities. They archive them. Every insecurity, every childhood wound, every late-night confession becomes part of their arsenal. This isn't intimacy, it's intelligence gathering. To an emotionally mature person, vulnerability is a bridge. To a manipulator, it's a blueprint, a detailed map of where to strike if you ever step out of line. You'll start to notice how their curiosity isn't balanced. They rarely share anything real about themselves. Their honesty feels rehearsed, safe, curated. Because the goal isn't connection, it's leverage. And once you realize this, something shifts. You stop speaking freely. You start editing yourself in real time, measuring every word. That's how you know you've been weaponized. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be careful whom you let shape your soul." Every conversation shapes you, and every secret you share gives someone power. The Stoics didn't advocate for isolation. They advocated for discernment. Not everyone who listens deserves access to your truth. When you sense that someone collects your pain more than they honor it, trust that instinct. Watch for the people who ask a lot but reveal nothing. The ones who want the story of your wounds, not the strength of your recovery. It's not vulnerability that destroys you. It's misplacement of trust. Because in the wrong hands, your truth becomes a leash. And the tighter they pull, the smaller your world becomes. Here's the Stoic reframe. You can still be open, but you must be selective. Let actions, not empathy performances, decide who earns your story. As Seneca said, "Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is." That includes knowing when to stop explaining, stop confessing, stop oversharing with those who only listen to gain an advantage over someone, especially you. Vulnerability is sacred. Don't hand it to those who see your honesty as opportunity. The Stoic doesn't build walls out of fear. They build gates out of wisdom, and only those who move with genuine care deserve to walk through. Before we get to the final sign, the one that cuts through every mask, every lie, and every layer of deception, take 2 seconds to hit like and subscribe, not just for the algorithm, but for your own awareness. Because every week we dive deeper into the kind of wisdom that helps you see clearly, even when the world around you is full of smoke. It costs nothing, but it's one of the best ways to show your appreciation for this work and make sure you don't miss the next lesson. And with that, let's finish this. Sign number 7. They reveal themselves in how they treat the powerless. Evil rarely shows itself when it needs you. It reveals itself when it doesn't. Watch closely, not when they speak to you, but when they speak to the waiter, the janitor, the stranger who can't offer them anything. That's when the mask slips. The truly malicious rarely act cruel in grand cinematic ways. They do it in passing, a cutting remark, a sneer at someone's mistake, a flash of irritation when the world doesn't orbit them fast enough. To them, people aren't people, they're tools, props in the theater of their own importance. And if you pay attention, you'll notice something chilling. They always punch down. They show warmth only when there's something to gain. They show contempt when the interaction offers nothing. Their charm is selective. Their empathy is conditional. In psychology, this is called moral inconsistency, but the Stoics had a simpler word for it: vice. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay. But those who lack discipline never delay. Their anger arrives uninvited, unfiltered, unleashed on whoever stands below them. That's how you know. A person's character isn't measured by how they treat equals or superiors. It's revealed in how they treat those who owe them nothing. So watch them in quiet moments. How do they react when someone makes a mistake? How do they speak about people who aren't in the room? Do they mock weakness or do they protect it? These are the cracks where truth seeps through. Because cruelty toward the powerless always predicts cruelty toward you. Maybe not today, maybe not while they need something from you, but one day, when you're no longer useful, you'll see that same coldness turned your way. Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." The Stoic would agree, not out of cynicism, but clarity. People reveal their souls constantly. We just talk ourselves out of believing what we saw. So believe it. Believe the tone that cut the waiter down. Believe the arrogance that mocked the stranger. Believe the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Because when you stop romanticizing people's potential, you start protecting your peace. One quick note before you go. You've just learned the 7 signs. The patterns that separate genuine souls from hidden predators. But awareness fades. Life gets noisy, and sometimes the same tricks you swore you'd never fall for slip back in through a smile, a favor, or a moment of weakness. So here's what I want you to do. Save this video. Come back to it whenever you start doubting yourself. Because the lessons that protect your peace aren't meant to be watched once. They're meant to be remembered. And if this helped you see people more clearly, you're going to love what comes next. Our next video dives deeper. 21 ruthless Stoic tactics to outsmart any manipulator. It's not just about spotting deception. It's about disarming it before it even begins. Click it now. Sharpen your mind. Protect your peace. Until next time, stay sharp, stay grounded, and remember, walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Stay stoic, my friends.